Hey, Malene, how y'all doing today? I'm here today to review two obscure movies from the 80s. One is super obscure, and one is like semi-obscure. But the one I'm going to start with the super obscure one first. A movie I've been wanting to see since 1989 called Fright Night. Now, in '89, I was stationed in Gerlstedt, Germany, while I was in the army. And outside the post, there's like certain military places outside of Gerlstedt, like throughout that would cater to soldiers and stuff. And there's one intersection. You go a little further down to a place called Osterholt Scharmbeck. There's an intersection. If you go further down the intersection, they have like this farmer's market, and they have like this little mall with a place called Die Schallplatte, which is the place where I used to get my CDs at. But at the intersection, there was a McDonald's. On the other side, there was a commissary, and then they end up making a giant commissary on the post a little later, which was huge. And then on the other side, there was a Star. Other side of the intersection, there was a Star video rental place, and then there was a H&R Block. You go in the Star rental place, they have a whole bunch of different movies. They have a giant row of new releases. The new releases were almost always rented out. And the one movie I always wanted to see was Fright House because of the cover art. And I never got to see it. I've always wanted to see it. And I was watching something from Baron Bloodcult, and I mentioned about the movie Fright House because it's not available on YouTube either. A lot of times people put movies on YouTube and you watch for free, which is real nice. And he was cool enough. He uploaded Fright Night, and he told me about it. He said, enjoy. I think he told me about it either Sunday or Monday night. And I said, thanks, man. I just won't be able to watch it till the weekend. I said, I'll do a review and stuff afterwards. So I finally watched it. I don't know. It's crazy. It's from 1989. It's the thumbnail was video art. I'm going to put the video art on there. But the movie is like two tales of the occult. And it's almost 2 hours long, so they're real drawn out tales. And they both have a famous actor. And the first tale has Al Lewis in it. So that's Grandpa Munster. And the second tale, Abaddon, has Dwayne Jones. And it's really sad. On the credits, it says Dwayne Jones, Night of the Living Dead, in case people don't know who he is, which is really bad. I mean, people, if you're watching a horror movie, you should know who Dwayne Jones is. At least I hope you do. He was really famous for that movie, for Night of the Living Dead. Well, anyways, the first story, it's really weird. The first story keeps going back from shot on video things to shot on film footage. And it's about like this satanic cult and stuff happening in this college. It doesn't tell a story well at all. The dubbing is terrible. They have like these weird shots that don't make any sense. And the story ends up not making any sense whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, it's about a cult. I mean, Al Lewis is the head of the police, and Al Lewis is really good in it. He's the best thing in that part. And it just gets more and more confusing as it goes along. It doesn't tell a story. It's all really disjointed, but it's entertaining. Some of the worst effects I've ever seen. There was an effect where this guy jumps out a window. That's the worst effect I've ever seen in a movie. Pretty much. Almost as bad as seeing Puma Man fly in that movie Puma Man back in 1980. But, I mean, it was really confusing. It was, at least there was some nudity in it, but it was pretty bad. But, I mean, a little bit entertainingly bad, but the second story, Abaddon, was terrible. I mean, it was like a story in search of a story. It had no story. It's about like these two energy vampires, I guess. One good, one bad. And it was like a school teacher never ages, I guess, named Abaddon. And they have stuff that doesn't make sense with this college and stuff. And then, like, they strike this thing in the body, and there's like this green goo that comes up at one scene. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have a story. It keeps repeating like images like of these gargoyles and like, these tarot cards and stuff like that. Dwayne Jones was pretty much just walking around with a hat on, mumbling his dialogue, and it's the thing with Abaddon is it takes itself too seriously, and I actually hated that one. The first one was all right. It was bad, but it tried to at least have a sense of humor because it knew it was bad. I mean, but the second one was just too serious. It was just kind of got boring and stuff. So I don't know. And also a big problem is the music drowning out all the dialogue. It was tough hearing what the people were saying. And that's a problem. But I mean, I'm so happy. But I'm not. I don't want Baron Bloodcult seeing. I'm ungrateful. I'm not. Thank you very much for uploading this movie. I mean, I'm so glad I got to see it. I don't have to see it again. No, but I wanted to see it for a long time, and it was hard to find because it's from a. I don't know. There's so in the golden age of video. In '89, it still was going on there. You know, it started to fade a little bit more a couple years later, but. There's so many video companies coming out, and there was a one called Shooting Star Video, which is on this, and it's the company that produces. I'd never heard of Shooting Star Video before. I don't know if that's the only thing they released. I have no idea. But I'd have to give Fright House a 3 out of 10, and that's only because of the first story. If it was the second story, I'd probably give it a 1 or a 0 out of 1 out of 10. So I give Fright House a 3 out of 10. Almost a 3 out of 10. So. There you go for that one. But thank you very much to Baron Bloodcult for that. I give you a shout out to this fun buddy. And then the second movie I wanted to review is Schizoid. Now another guy that does, there's other people that upload horror films. This is a Burial Ground, and he uploaded Schizoid from 1980, a classic slasher film with Klaus Kinski. And it's most notable for, first of all, Siskel and Ebert put on the Dogs of the Week when they had that. And the Dogs of the Week were the movies I wanted to see the most. You know, because that stuff my mother wouldn't want to see and stuff. I love seeing stuff like that. Because they had a thing against slasher films called The Female's Always the Victim. And that was like a big list of movies I wanted to see. And Schizoid is most recognizably known for Klaus Kinski. Also the fact that the killer used a pair of scissors. And there's a scene at the beginning involving a girl riding a bike and a guy in a car chasing her and stuff. And that's what it's really most known for. And basically it's about this therapy group, and the one girl that's the star of the show runs a Lonely Hearts ad like a Dear Joanne, and apparently people are killing the women from this therapy group, and they're like writing like cutting like pieces of magazine of like words from magazine, put them in different letters. You see that all the time. And also, Christopher Lloyd is in the movie, and he does not do his usual stick that he became famous for in Taxi and Back to the Future. He just talks normal. So that's pretty neat. And Craig Wasson, who you might not know of, who didn't really hit it big, but he, a few years later, he maybe hit the biggest thing in his career. He starred in a movie called Body Double that Brian De Palma directed, back when Brian De Palma used to direct good movies. I don't know what happened to him either. But I mean, Schizoid is and then the therapy doctor is played by Klaus Kinski, who has problems with his daughter at home, and he's kind of screwed up too. Everybody in this movie screwed up, and like they say, like the killer is the police are trying to find out who the killer is, and I don't want to give away a whole lot more. I saw this a long time ago on Elvira. Elvira had the movie on it, except it was edited out, and there was a scene where Klaus Kinski's having sex with a stripper. That was not shown on Elvira. And there was a scene where she gets a phone call, and they bleep out the swearing and stuff like that. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. I give that probably an 8 out of 10. The copy on YouTube is a little bit blurry, but 8 out of 10 for Schizoid. One of the classic films from 80s, also made by Callan. Golden Globus too, which is pretty cool. So there you have it. My reviews of Fright House and Schizoid. 2 rare horror films from the 80s. And one rarer than the other. And there's also a movie from England called Schizo. And then I remember Fangoria said, see this and don't confuse Schizo with Schizoid from the 80s, so they didn't like that one. But I like Schizoid. I like Schizo too, the English film. I bought that when I was in the Army. And so there you have it for 2 rare movies from rare slasher films. Well, no. 2 rare horror films from the 80s. That Fright House is no slasher film. It's not really much of a film at all. But Schizoid is a slasher film. So until next time, everybody, please take care of my legion.